Good evening. I'd like to call this Ayer Select Board meeting to order for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information relating to remote participation, please contact Cindy Knox, the IT director, at cknox@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8252, or Carly Antonellis, the assistant town manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220 prior to the meeting. If we could start the meeting with the stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do have one announcement this evening. The town of Ayer will host an online public budget forum Wednesday, January 21st, 2021 at 6 p.m. The town manager will present the initial draft of the fiscal year 2022 budget to the Select Board and Finance Committee. All department heads will be in attendance to answer questions. For Zoom information, please contact the town manager's office. And are there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I don't have any.
Okay, I don't either.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the agenda is approved as presented. The first item up after that is public input. Is there anybody on for public input tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's David Eartha.
Hello, Mr. Bedurtha, how are you?
Good. I know we've had a few discussions over the, a group set of discussions over the last couple of weeks, and we're trying to get an update as to if there's a traffic study in Ayer in regards to the new Indian music hall or facility up in Groton. I know I've talked to a group in Groton. I've talked to a couple groups in the other towns, but from the Groton government, I haven't heard any. They said that they hadn't really heard anything or no questions from Ayer. And I'm wondering if there's a traffic study in process, because they're talking about, possibly with the outdoor events, maybe 1,000 cars coming through town after the end of the event. Good. So do we have a study in process?
Okay, I'll refer that to Robert, the town manager.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, to Mr. Bedurtha's question, David, we're not aware of a traffic study on the Ayer side for this project where it's in Groton, but we certainly can ask, and it looks like you've made some inquiries to the town of Groton, ask if they have anything, and if not, approach the project developer of Indian Hill and have that discussion about traffic impacts and a potential traffic study on the Ayer side.
Okay, because once it's in, it'll take a little while depending on what the COVID and everything else, and it's still probably about a year out. But you're talking a lot of traffic, and going east, I think Littleton 119 was going to take all of that traffic, but going west, anything going west is going to be 100% into Ayer. Hopefully, if we plan ahead we can direct it out through the Rotary to, Barnum Road or something, or have a plan. But I think, I would hope that, maybe, the Board of Selectmen Town Manager would think about doing an air traffic study, because this could have a high impact for us. The Groton study, they concentrated pretty strongly, and I can send it to you. They really concentrated on the 119 Old Ayer Road intersection, but I'm still going through the actual numbers. But I think Ayer should have its own study and figure it out, because when it hits, we'll have no time to react. I appreciate the time.
Great. Thank you for your question, David.
Excuse me, Sean,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a follow-up question to Robert, or also to David, if he has that information? Who would we reach out to if we wanted to do our own study around that? Because I'm assuming that the town of Groton wouldn't really honestly put too much effort into the traffic impacts on our side of the border as opposed to their side of the border.
I agree. Well, I know the town planner, Takashi Tada, is available. And also, I know the planning board is the ones that instituted, I don't know if that's obvious, but they're the ones that actually commissioned a lot of the studies with Indian Hill. And again, if there's an interest, you can get them from Groton. It's up on their website. It's a little bit convoluted, but I could also make it available that I've gotten. But it really, I think, is going to have a big effect on us. And all traffic stuff takes, at a minimum, a year to react to. And I know the buildings are looking pretty good, so it won't be too long.
The chairman and the Selectman Hood's point. Also, what we will do, if the board would like, is we'll make formal contact with the project developer. Granted, the project was in Groton, and have a conversation about doing a study on the air traffic impacts, if you will. It seems only fair that a project of that magnitude would fund, the study. And I think the first step is to have that conversation with them, along with the town planner, DPW, and the Office of Economic Development. So we can definitely get something going on that.
And Janice?
Just a follow up. So on a traffic study, I just want to make sure we're not just counting cars, because if we start counting cars while we're still under these restrictions, we're not going to get an accurate number. We're actually going to, the study's actually going to look at the pattern of the roads of where everyone's coming from also, right? Because I know a lot of times when we talk about a traffic study, we talk about counting cars. It's kind of hard to count cars right now because we're not going to get an accurate number.
Correct. It would look at not just the volume of cars, because you're correct, based on the situation right now. It would look at the roadways. It would look at the parking capacity of the facility, and a bunch of different variables. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be the important part, because I say they're outdoor events. If they do what they say, you could be talking, upwards of, 2,500 or 3,000 individuals that attend the outdoor events. And that's going to be a lot of cars. But yeah, I was thinking traffic flow versus, putting the strips down and, counting cars. I mean, I think it's, good idea to, look at Barnum Road, look at McPherson to get traffic to Route 2, which is probably where everybody wants to go.
Great. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else on for public input? Okay. We will move on to the next. Our next item up is the recognition of the assessor's office for data conversion. And I have a letter that I was asked to read. It's from John Kilcommons, from the chair of the Ayer Board of Assessors, and he sent it to the select board. And it reads, Dear Ayer Select Board, on behalf of the entire Board of Assessors, I would like to express our sincere admiration for the amazing efforts put in by Assessing Administrator Tom Hogan and Assessing Department Assistant Jacqueline Guthrie on their successful conversion of Ayer's entire real estate database. The assessing department's internal audit of the conversion of Tyler Technologies World Appraisal Solution has received final approval from the Bureau of Local Assessment. Out of the 40 Massachusetts communities participating in the process, Ayer is one of the few to have received this approval. This conversion, lasting over 18 months, involved a considerable amount of work. In fiscal year 20, both the legacy system, CSC, and IAS World Appraisal Solutions were run in parallel. For fiscal year 21, the town has moved to IAS World Appraisals, while all ongoing assessing department functions continued without interruption. Thank you to Tom and Jacqueline for all of their hard work and diligence. Sincerely, John Kilcommons, Chair, Ayer Board of Assessors. And John, did you want to say a few words also?
I'll just hop in. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom, kudos on this. I'll vouch out of the 2 years I've been on the assessors, we've discussed this on 18 different agendas. So I know it's been a long process. I just wanted to see the recognition go to you and Jackie. Thank you.
Thanks, John, Mr. Chairman. It's been a long 18 months, and I know my board is tired of hearing our agenda item update on the conversion to a new appraisal system. But it was a lot of work, but we enjoyed it. Jacqueline was of great assistance. It was especially difficult for her because we were running two systems concurrently as we transferred over to the new system. And so she had to do things the way she knew how to do them, and then turn around and do things in a different system in a way she wasn't really, that she had to learn. So it was quite a challenge for all of us. But the end result is the town now has a state-of-the-art appraisal system that's going to hopefully serve the town well many years to come. It's a Tyler system who also own Munis, which is our financial software. It's a cloud-based system, so we have no infrastructure costs in terms of servers and backup and that type of thing. If you go out on the town's website, Cindy Knox got our public access link operational, so you can go out there and look up your property, take a look at it. It's integrated with GIS and pictometry, and it's got a lot of advanced query capabilities that I think are going to serve us well going forward. But again, it's not just myself and Jacqueline. I work for a great board. They're very supportive, and it's always fun seeing those guys come into a meeting and discussing the status of this project. And also the town manager's office was aware of what was going on the entire time, and he's always very supportive of what we're doing. So thanks, John. I really appreciate the letter. I'm not used to this kind of notoriety, but I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Congratulations, guys, on a job well done. It seems like a great team effort.
Well done.
Thank you.
Quick question, Tom, is that the Supremes in the back of you? Somebody's asked.
It is.
It is?
You got a good eye. Yeah, my wife gave me a calendar for Christmas.
Ah, cool. No, somebody just wrote about it, so I had to ask, because I'm like, yeah, that is the Supremes.
You might not know it, but January 14th, 1970 was the last concert the Supremes gave as a group. So it's a very sad day, and it's noted on my calendar. So but, I don't know what next month has, but we'll see. Thanks again, Select Board. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is our Superintendent, Mark Wetzel, our update on the street opening and driveway access permit regulations. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Thank you. Carly, can you put the slides up on the screen?
Give me 1 sec. Thanks.
All right, thanks. So just a little background. So in the town meeting in fall 2018, we approved a new street opening and driveway access way permit bylaw. The old permit or the old bylaw was very detailed and cumbersome. It was outdated. The problem with putting a lot of regulations in a bylaw is that in order to change them, you have to go back to town meeting and have the regulations updated. So what I did was I simplified the bylaw and and referred to some regulations, and now I've got the regulations put together and ready for review and approval. So the purpose of having a bylaw for street opening and driveway access is primarily to protect the town residents, their safety, the access, preserve the roads in the town, and protect our infrastructure. So the bylaw is specific with permit requirements, referring to the regulations that are approved by the planning board. And I should also note that the driveway and accessway permit also needs to be approved by the planning. And then the regulations are more specific on what the application requirements are, what the fees are, what the procedures are, and conditions for the permit. So next slide. So the recommended approval process is that I'm presenting the draft regulations to the select board tonight. I will also send a copy to the planning board and police department for review, because a lot of the police department issues related to traffic and public safety are included. We'll post the draft regulations on the Ayer webpage for public review. I'm proposing about a 2-week review process. We'll put out notifications that they are available for review. We'll review the comments, finalize the regulations, and then the select board and the planning board can approve them. And next slide, please. So permits are required for street opening or road opening, and that's any excavation. And I also included obstruction in the public right of way. And typically we haven't included the obstruction provision, but we've had a number of cases where people put dumpsters out in the roadway, or they have some sort of construction equipment out in the roadway. So we would require a permit for that. Then and the excavation, obviously, if someone's going to dig up the town streets, we need to make sure who's doing it, why they're doing it, and that they're going to protect our infrastructure and repair the streets, as well as having public safety around the site. Driveway and access way would be for constructing, altering, or relocation or repaving a driveway or access way that provides vehicular access to a town road. That would include new curb cuts, repaving driveways, widening driveways. Now we got an awful lot of driveway work. Seal coating and patching of driveways wouldn't be included. And then we'd also, there's related permits that may be required for some of these projects. A trench permit's required for trenches that are over a certain depth and width. Planning board site plan review and approval may be required for some curb cuts. Conservation Commission would be require a permit if it's within a certain distance from a wetland or a stream. And then because we do have Route 2A going through the center of town, or through the town, they might need a Mass DOT highway access permit, which takes precedent over town street opening permit. Next slide, please. So in putting these together, what I did was I did 2 separate regulations, one for street opening and one for driveway and accessway permits. The street opening regulations are a little more detailed because there's a lot more, number one, public safety related issues to that. Number 2 is the road repaving, compaction repaving, and also some of the issues related to protecting infrastructure. So the regulations have the permit requirements, specific permit conditions, and then outline fees and insurance. One of the things as I was putting these together that I coordinated with was the subdivision regulations, Mass DOT highway access permits. We have DPW construction standards for water, sewer, drains, and other utilities in town. And then there may be some other town bylaws and regulations that would take precedence. For instance, there may be some police traffic control requirements. Next slide, please. So the administration permits are currently issued by the DPW. We continue to do that. Any policy decisions that are questioned or that we need to change in the regulations would be the responsibility of the select board through the office of the town manager. A permit requires an application, payment of fees, insurance certificate, and in some cases, they may have to post a bond to do the work. We generally issue permits between April 1st and November 15th, with the exception of emergencies or in some instances, case-by-case basis. And that might be, for example, someone needs to replace a water service for a new house, and we're planning to repave the road the following season. We'd like to get that done and let it settle over a period of time. So I look at that on a case-by-case basis, and if it's not going to be a significant traffic issue, or if there's no issues with getting the road resurfaced, then I may allow that, but that's very rare. Permit would be valid for 60 days, and they can request a time extension. If the 60 days expires and they haven't requested a time extension, then they'd have to reapply and pay the fees again. And the DPW superintendent can issue permit violations and fines for failure to comply. And if people don't feel they should pay the fines, they can appeal to the select board. And the fines are stipulated in the bylaw. Next slide. So we have, these are fairly detailed regulations. The driveway regulation is 9 pages long, and the street opening regulation is 17 pages long. So there's a lot of information in those, but I'll just give you a quick summary of some of the key things. Traffic control. This is one of the problems that we have right now is we don't have specific traffic control requirements. So you may see someone digging up a street with a lot of traffic issues, and the police haven't been told about that, even though we have that in the conditions that we give the contractor. Traffic management plan would be required for arterial and collector streets. And in that little teeny map I have there, you can see the colored streets. They're basically the main roads in town. So you can see West Main Street, East Main Street, Washington Street, Groton Harvard Road, Westford Road, Sandy Pond Road. So those are some of the streets where if there was any work required, they'd have to have a traffic management plan. Work hours are stipulated between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on weekdays. No permits would be allowed on newly paved roads, and we use a 5-year moratorium on new paved roads. If they do need to do something and pave within that limit, then we have special paving requirements. For example, when National Grid put the new gas line down Groton School Road, they were required to repave the whole road. We have specific requirements for existing utilities, protection of property and trees, and also keeping the road neat and clean during the work period. Next, please. So then we have some specific conditions. We have dimensional controls for driveways and curb cuts. Those are coordinated with the subdivision regulations. We specify materials and construction in accordance with our DPW construction standards and our subdivision regulations. We have very specific backfilling and compaction requirements, what they can use for backfill material, and what level they have to compact to. The repaving requirements, how thickness the pavement has to be, how they treat it, how many different courses they put in, and then also the sidewalk requirements. They must meet ADA requirements, and we also have some specific conditions related to road drainage. That's one of the other issues that we discover. People repave their driveway, and all the runoff runs right out into the street and causes icing issues. Next slide, please. So these are the fees that I propose. Right now, we charge $25 for all of our fees, regardless of how big of an opening you have, where it is. For driveways, that if the resident applies for it as opposed to their contractor, then we don't charge the resident. So anyways, looking at what other towns are charging and what is practical fees, then this is what I'm proposing, is that we have $100 for a trench permit. One thing I should point out is one of the companies that does the most road opening or street opening permits in town is National Grid, and we don't require a trench permit from them because their trenches basically aren't deep enough to meet the definition of a trench. And I believe also that if they do need a trench permit, they get an exemption from the state as a public utility, so they don't have to pay the fee. So anyways, we don't charge them for the trench permit, but we would for the road opening permits. So for 100 square feet, which is the 10 by 10 opening, it would be $100 fee. Greater than 100 square feet would be $200. Some towns have a sliding scale, so they say it might be $25 for every additional 25 square feet or something like that. But we figured to keep it simple, we would at this point use just have a two fee structure. And then for any non-excavation but right-of-way obstructions, it would be $10 per day or $200 for the month. For driveways, for reconstruction, alteration, or enlargement would be $50 for residential, $150 for commercial. If you were just resurfacing an existing driveway, would be $25. For putting borings in the street, $35 for 5, $50 for over 5. And then if they have to cut into the new road, we have a sliding scale for the fee for that. And then for excavation only, we require a security deposit of $5,000. That can be a bond or a check. Next slide, please. And then finally, we require the contractors to provide insurance. And so these are basically the limits, and we'll have Carly review those with our insurance company and make sure that those are sufficient. And I believe that is it. Next slide. So the draft regulations will be posted. I've got a few edits to make that I've gotten some comments back from Dan Van Schalkwijk, town engineer. So I'm going to update those. And if I have any comments or questions tonight, I can incorporate those. And then we can put those, we'll post them on the website and have a 2-week notice for getting comments to us. And then I'll be back to a future meeting for approval. So any questions or comments? I'm sure you read every page of the draft.
In detail.
Find my-
It was riveting.
Did you find my mistake?
Just a quick question, Mark. So this is going to be up on the town website for 2 weeks. What is the best manner for the public to provide feedback? Is it going to have an email address that they can reach out to, or with phone call?
Yeah, no, they can either call me or email me.
Okay.
And I'm sure that, like I said, I had Dan review them and he had a lot of good comments, mostly related to keeping them consistent and clarifying some of the conditions, fixing some of the typos. But I'm sure, for instance, members of the planning board, I'm sure will have some good comments. Mr. Diskin is pretty detail oriented and understands the stuff. So he'll give me the comments. Sure that the police department will have some input on the traffic control provisions. So anyway, I think we can get this done. And one of the nice things with having it as a regulation is, we can try it out, and if we find that there's some things we're missing or some things that are too onerous, then I can come back to the board and we can revise the regulations at a future date.
Mark, so I noticed you'd said that you had just added in the obstruction, and that wasn't in the regulations before.
Right.
I'm just a little unclear though. Is the process for permitting for obstruction much simpler and require a lot less? In my mind, I'm thinking of obstruction as being like you said, like a dumpster blocking or taking up space on the street.
Right. It's basically the same process. I can look at, I don't know whether we need to have a bond for that. So let me check on that. But basically, what we're finding is, and I've come across this in 3 different streets in the last year, that contractors put dumpsters out in the road and no one knows anything about them. And I'll talk to building inspector and say, well, you've got to get them to either move those or put some traffic control around them, some reflective lights, things like that. So I think it's a good idea to control that. But if it's something that's going to be, overnight or a couple of days, then we would probably waive that requirement.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Janice? No.
No.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
The next item is we have a update on the Wild and Scenic River Stewardship Committee from Beth Sudemeyer. She's a committee member. Beth, are you on?
I am. Good evening, everyone, and
Good
Happy
evening.
New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, good, thank you. So I'm pleased to be here tonight to give you an update on the activities of the Nashua Wild and Scenic Rivers Stewardship Council. Carly, I think you have the handout, which is just a brief 2-page update that the Stewardship Council has prepared to share with the select boards as we're doing the rounds at the various select board meetings throughout the 11 communities. So Carly, if you'll share that. And, I'll speak briefly to this. I know we don't want to take up too much time, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to provide an update to you on what has been happening with the council. And we're very excited that we're at the point where we're actually launching a community grants program. So the timing of these updates is really nice for us to be able to share some information about that. So the designation of the Wild and Scenic Rivers occurred in 2019. So the council has been operating now for almost 2 years. It was March of 2019. And there's been a lot of work underway to adopt policies and sort of get the council up and running. And much of the activity that the council has undertaken is really based on the plan that was developed as part of the nomination process. And so that is still our guiding document at this point in time. And it identified all of the resources that are really important to the Nashua, the Squanicook, and the Nissitissit rivers, and how we intend to work with the communities to protect those resources. So the Stewardship Council has representatives from each community, and I'm the community representative for Ayer, and Town Manager Robert is the alternate for that position. And it's been great to work with Robert, over the years on this initiative. He was really instrumental during the nomination process with a lot of the outreach, as well as was Cindy Knox in helping with, website facilitation and things like that. So Ayer has been really well represented in the activities associated with the Wild and Scenic River effort. But the council, as I said, we meet monthly and have really been working on the items that are identified here, within this summary. There's been a number of ongoing initiatives related to shoreline surveys that have been conducted to identify, sort of risks to the rivers, opportunities for, addressing any problems that we're seeing on the banks with erosion, subsidence and things like that. We have undertaken a canoe access assessment, which has identified a number of opportunities for improvements to existing canoe access and boat launch locations, and also some opportunities for new boat launch locations. And we do actually have one that's been in consideration in Ayer that is right by the Route 2A bridge and within right-of-way of Mass DOT land, actually next to, some of you may be familiar with the former David Ross Associates building. So next to that, there's actually some frontage to the river that is owned by Mass DOT. And so they are looking at whether or not that would be an acceptable boat launch. And I know that Joanne from the Conservation Office has been involved in those discussions as well, because that would be something that the Conservation Commission would need to endorse and permit. So then there's a number of initiatives that are being pursued by land stewardship group members, such as invasive species control, riparian land management. There's research underway about the potential for pursuing a forest legacy program application. Now, this is a federal program, the Forest Legacy Program, which can offer significant amounts of land conservation money for regional collaboratives where there's a high number of acreage that could be protected in multiple communities that could take advantage of this. And so right now we're just doing a feasibility assessment to determine if this might be possible. And we haven't identified any lands within Ayer that we think might be available for conservation, but we're certainly open to conversations with landowners and further discussions. And as you're aware, there's a huge interest in Ayer to protect and conserve additional areas for conservation, but we haven't had a lot of opportunities. And so anytime there's landowners that are interested in learning more about putting land in conservation, or just understanding what some of the programs are and tax benefits associated with conservation or conservation restrictions, we're happy to discuss those opportunities. One of the other initiatives that I'll just briefly mention has been a networking breakfast program that the conservation coordinators from all of the communities have been participating in, and they have special speakers and topics for discussion. And I think this has been a really nice way for members from the various communities to work together towards the common goals of protecting the river resources. So that's, just kind of a broad overview of the activities that have been underway, but I did want to certainly circle back to the community grants. So we hope to grow this program in the future, but for the first year, we're just starting off relatively small with a $20,000 allocation towards the grant program. And nonprofits and municipalities, are some of the entities that are eligible to apply for this. The grants will be fairly small, but need to meet the goal of the stewardship plan and protecting the resources or raising awareness about these areas to the community and the public. So it could be, pursuing projects related to scientific research or education and outreach. There's a lot of different things that could be funded through these community grants. The applications will be accepted in February and March with a deadline for applications of April 1st. And all of the information is available at the Wild and Scenic website. So I did want to definitely mention that and pitch that. And again, we're happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about possible grant proposals. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or see what anyone has to offer in addition.
Any questions from the board?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Robert.
if I could, I just wanted to thank Beth for all of her work and for the update this evening. Thank you, Beth. And it's really, this effort is really a true example of successful regionalization. In other words, all the towns that have come together to get this designation and are now working forward to not only protect but enhance these three rivers that run through all of our towns. So we greatly appreciate the Select Board and the town of Ayer's ongoing support of these efforts. And Beth, I think it's great that we have this periodic update as to the developments of the council. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Robert. Happy to share the information.
Thank you so much, Beth. Sounds like there's a lot of exciting things going on.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Hope you all have a good
Thank you so
night.
much. You too.
You.
Thank you. Next up, we have our town clerk. Susan Copeland.
Hi,
Hello, Ms.
Hello.
Copeland. How are you?
how's everyone?
Good.
Great.
Good.
So it's election time. Only the town election so far is on the agenda this year. And so first, I was just hoping if the select board could officially call the election and list the offices that are up. We do have several offices that are up this year. So I would just like to officially have the election called and officially open the nomination paper process.
All right, I can start that. Let's do that. I would like to call the annual town election for Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, to be held at the Ayer Town Hall, second floor, Great Hall, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The following offices will be on the ballot. 1 assessor for a 3-year term, 1 assessor for a 2-year term. 1 member of the Board of Health for a 3-year term, 1 commissioner of trust funds for a 3-year term, 1 constable for a 3-year term, 1 housing authority member, 5-year term, 3 library trustees for 3-year terms each, 2 park commissioners, 3-year terms, 2 members of the planning board, 3-year term, 1 member of the regional school district committee, it's a 3-year term, 1 member of the select board for a 3-year term, and 1 moderator for a 1-year term. The last day to request nomination papers is Friday, March 19th, 2021 at 12 p.m. The last day to submit nomination papers is Monday, March 22nd, 2021 at 4 p.m. And need to take a roll call vote if we can to open this. Do I need a motion on that first?
Did you make a motion? Because it sounded
Yeah.
like a motion. So if that was a
No, I need to
motion, I'll
make-
second it.
Okay.
Okay. So Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Passes.
Great.
Sorry if I messed that up at all.
Mr. Chair, so I wanted to just review the unique situation we're having this year with the nomination paper process and the election as a whole. So I first want to address a typo in the packet. The list of offices, I had put selectmen, but then I changed it to select board, but I forgot to swap it out. with Carly and Cindy. So it will be corrected and placed on the website and information properly. So we do have several offices or boards and committees that have multiple seats. We have had different turnover over the past year. So that, and what happens is some folks have been appointed to the positions until this election, at which time they will run for the remaining terms or the following term. A library trustee actually had several turnovers and new folks coming along. So we finally have them staggered appropriately. So that's a really exciting thing that they have a lot of new faces to continue. So the process for the nomination papers, and I had included in the packet about obtaining nomination papers. It will be, like I said, unique. It's not something, fortunately, usually it's someone comes right into the office and requests nomination papers. Now with us closed, we're going to do this as an appointment, just so we can make sure we have the time, because we do have to meet individuals outside. I have made some of the forms electronically. There's a form that you fill out when you come into the office, for anybody that's familiar. It's just a simple form. You put your name, your contact information, and sign that you're requesting the nomination papers. So that I can, if you email me or Lori, we can email it to you. So you have that already prepared for when you come here to get the papers. The nomination papers is the same as it's always been, and is double-sided. However, if someone wanted to make copies of the front page, because all of your information's on there, that's fine. If you wanted to distribute it instead of doing one full page, that is fine. The important point for every candidate is that they are the ones returning the nomination papers because they're accepting their nomination. So the candidates need to receive back their not signed nomination papers and then bring them back to the office. Again, giving us a call so we can make arrangements to meet. But it's not, if you give the form to someone and they sign it, they aren't the ones returning it to town hall. It needs to be all returned from the candidate. So, so a couple things, we still need to have, they use the term wet signature. So it cannot be electronic. It has to be a physical signature. It can't be emailed. We need to have it with a pen, blue or black pen, sign names on the nomination papers. They have not waived for it to be electronic or to be typed. That is not acceptable. So there's no extension of the deadlines, which is pretty ironic because we changed our timeline of town meeting and town election. So actually the town election is 2 weeks later this year than normally because we swapped the order. So technically in Ayer, you are getting 2 weeks extra timeline to get your 26 signatures. So that should give you ample time to get your papers and get your signatures. And there's no reduction of signatures. It's 26. So you need 26 signatures. There's 32 lines on the form, and I always encourage everybody to fill it up completely in case for some reason there's any issues. So we did kind of come up with some suggestions for obtaining signatures. You could email, you could scan your nomination paper and email it and ask people to print it off, sign it and return it to you. You could set up a table at a public place using COVID-19 practices, including pens, masks, gloves, sanitizer. Obviously, you would want to get permission for wherever you're deciding to set up at a public place. So just use your discretion. You can always just sort of set up a table in your front yard and ask people to come over, sort of like make a schedule and have people come in 10, 15-minute blocks. Or you could, and you could advertise that using social media, whatever you would like to do, but it's just some ideas on, because I know we're all used to our regular social gatherings or even just coming in, obtaining your papers. And then a lot of times you can get almost a dozen signatures here in the building itself, but unfortunately we're trying to be a little thinking of new ways to do it. And then I did come up with another checklist just to make sure that all the candidates are receiving all the information they need, that we're receiving it back in a timely fashion. Also, the email correspondence to our office helps so that we have an actual date and timestamp, because I don't want the integrity of whether someone reached out after a timeline or anything like that to be questioned. So to me, that's very important. If you can just email to at least we can have something to reference in case someone had any concerns that we weren't following the deadline. So that is that. And I just finally have to, I didn't think I'd have to quote chapter 227 of the Acts of 2020 anymore, but come to find out I really do, because it was the election approvals that they gave were continued to March 31st, 2021. And that doesn't do anything for most of us that have local elections. We all have local elections from April and thereafter. But the deadlines that were included in that is in regards to early voting, mail-in voting. And I know that's going to be a question for folks because we're still very much in a COVID world. So I just want to remind everybody that we have absentee ballots. We always have absentee ballots, and even during the early voting and the mail-in ballots, it was all the same ballot that we used that we mailed to folks, whether it was for an absentee, mail-in, or early voting. So it's still handled. We process them as soon as we receive them. We have the lock boxes at both locations for you to return your ballots that are secured. They will be remain in the vault, and they will be counted on election day, as they always have been for many years, and they will be counted in that day's tally. The only catch is that there is no online tracking. So I know they had offered the Track My Ballot link for the state, and that was the state level. They're not offering that for the local elections. But again, a phone call or email to Lori and myself to say, did you get my application? Did you get my ballot? And things like that. We will answer you as soon as we are able to. And I think it's going to be another great election year. As always, I hope there's lots of interested folks that are going to get involved and pull papers. And we are reaching out to those folks that their terms are up for this ballot, just to ensure that everybody's aware that they have to pull papers if they so choose. And that's sort of the wrap up on nomination papers. I think I touched everything. I didn't want to go, you don't want to go too much, but not say enough. So I don't know if there's any questions, if anyone has, that I might have missed, or let me know.
Scott or Janice?
I can't think of anything.
No questions. Thank you.
Me neither. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And again, we'll have everything up on the website. And again, my email is clerk@ayer.ma.us. And Lori is atc@ayer.ma.us. And you can email both of us and you will hear from somebody.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That brings us to the town manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board, good evening and Happy New Year. I
Happy
hope
New
that
Year.
everybody had safe and happy holidays since we last met on December 21st. You have in your packet all of the warrants for the town that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on December 21st. In terms of the administrative update, it's all things budget, as the board is aware. It's that time of year. The priority is the formulation and development of the budget, which is an ongoing process, and we'll talk about a couple of components of that momentarily under my report. I also just want to add that the town is in the process of installing a new phone system at Town Hall. This is a $30,000 upgrade to the town's phone system, which was desperately needed. The good news is it was originally submitted as a capital request through the facilities department, but through the efforts of Ms. Gabri and Mr. Schultz from the facilities department, it was eligible for CARES funding through the COVID CARES funding. So we will be reimbursed that $30,000, and we've been able to implement the phone system much sooner than later in the year. So we'll keep you updated on that. Also, the Department of Public Works, Mark Wetzel and the town engineer, Dan Van Shalwick, along with Alan Minoyan from the Economic Development Office, have hit the ground running on the MassWorks grant for West Main Street. As the board is aware, a contract has to be in place for that project by June 30th. And we are rapidly working on that, and everything looks to be on target. So we'll keep you updated as that project moves forward. In terms of the COVID-19 update, just briefly, Ayer remains classified as a red community by the Mass Department of Public Health. And if you looked at the map last Thursday, that's unfortunately at most of the Commonwealth, many of the towns are classified as red at this time. As I mentioned, a special thanks to the fire chief, Chief Johnston, and the fire department for setting up a COVID-19 testing center for employees. I greatly appreciate our EMTs doing the swabbing and the fire chief setting this up. It gives us the ability, if an employee is a close contact or there's an issue with an employee, we can get that employee tested and get those results within 48 hours, which maximizes us being proactive on this. And I appreciate that being set up. On the vaccine front, we continue to receive a lot of inquiries about the vaccine. As the board is aware, Massachusetts has a 3-phase approach. We're just entering phase 1, which is largely first responders, vulnerable populations in community rehab, nursing homes, assisted living. We have been referring most folks to either the state DPH website or to the Neshoba Boards of Health. Everybody's anxious about the vaccine. We have the same information at this time that's on the DPH website. We are looking forward, the Neshoba Boards of Health is conducting a vaccine clinic for first responders in phase 1 from the 17 towns in their area, which includes Ayer. That will start on January 20th, actually tomorrow and Saturday. And it's firefighters, police, dispatchers, EMTs from the 17 towns out here, including Ayer. So that's a first start. They are actively also working on other clinics, and we'll keep everybody updated. I think everybody wished they had more information that's sort of statewide, but we're hoping that things will increase as we move forward. The COVID-19 CARES funding that the board is aware the town is eligible for reimbursement for COVID-19 expenses has been extended through December 31st of 2021. So we appreciate that. That's very helpful. That originally expired on December 30th and has been extended. So that will be helpful as we move forward. And really on the COVID-19 front is we continue to stay the course. Again, I appreciate everybody's support across town, wearing masks on town property, inside and out. I've been in touch with Dr. Malone. Their efforts are staying the course up at the schools. So we will continue to move forward, and we're cautiously optimistic that things will begin to improve within the next few months. The FY22 budget update, the third item on my report, just briefly, the board, you have, and the finance committee has draft 1, the initial draft 1 of the FY22 omnibus budget per the budget calendar was sent on January 8th to you in the FinCom. I also want to point out for the public as well that if you go to the town manager's webpage on the town's website. You click on that, the first tab says 2022 budget. That will be the repository for all of the budget documents as we move forward in this process. And if you go there now, you'll see the budget calendar as approved by the select board, and you'll see this January 8th, 2021 first draft. And so we're going to keep promoting that link and promoting that web page as the central location for the information. Just at a very high level and in the interest of time, and when I met with the FinCom on January 13th, it did sort of a similar, just brief overview of the omnibus budget as it stands tonight. And we'll get into a little bit more detail at the forum next week. If you look at it, it's largely a level services budget. It takes the level of service from last year and looks to continue that in the year ahead. Now, of course, that's subject to revision. It's subject to input from the select board, input from the FinCom, input from the public, and that'll start with next week's forum and remains a process. So obviously this is the first pass, if you will. Ms. Gabri, the finance manager, and I are actively meeting with the departments as we always do and actively refining and revising this. And I can tell you that there's already, through Lisa's efforts, approximately there's several thousands that that need to be adjusted in the downward direction, if you will. There are lines in there, for example. So what you really have from January 8th is that was what the departments have requested in their initial requests. And now we, working together with you and the FinCom, will further refine this. The budget, and don't get caught up on it if you go to the bottom, is $16,352,895, which is an increase of $726,594 over last year, or a 4.6% increase. Now, I can tell you that we've already identified probably a close to $250,000 that needs to come off of that. There was $200,000 that was put in, what was factored into the regional dispatch, which is actually the state grant. So that needs to come out. And Ms. Gabri has identified some additional funding in the police budget. And I'm not picking on the police, but there's other budgets as well. If you look at the town council budget, last year it was 100,000. I requested 90,000 this year in FY22. As I continue to look at the history and how it's trending, especially during COVID, there's an opportunity there at 90,000 to reduce that further. And when we meet on Wednesday, Ms. Gabri and I will highlight some of those. You'll get sort of draft 2, if you will, that night as well, and we'll keep moving forward. A couple final points. The current omnibus budget does not include the definitive health insurance number. Mr. Johnston, at the request of the internal finance team, has budgeted for a 12% increase. We won't know that number. We're expecting it to be lower until the middle of February. The refinement of the budget lines I just talked about, we're actively, and we'll communicate with you, actively refining those. If there are things that are increases, we definitely are concerned with that. At this time, all of the refinements have been a downward trend. The omnibus budget does not include the police and dispatch. They're one group. The police and dispatch contract expires on June 30th. That's currently under negotiations, and we'll do an update in the near future with the board on that. And the omnibus budget does not contain any cost of living adjustment for non-union and elected officials. And as the board knows, we go through a process on recommendations about that very shortly in February. Finally, I just want to stress again, I appreciate the chair bringing up next Wednesday, January 27th at 6 p.m. will be the first budget forum. It's a joint meeting of the select board and the FinCom. Ms. Gabri and I will make a brief presentation. The BI board is meeting this Thursday at 2 to sort of take a look at that and refine it. We'll make a brief presentation, open it up to any questions that the select board and the FinCom have. And then through the chair, any comments that the public or input the public may have. So we want the public to attend. All department heads will be in attendance so they can answer any of the specific questions, and then we'll continue the process. Two other things that of importance. On February 5th, the Neshoba Valley Technical High School will release their FY22 budget. The select board and FinCom are invited to attend. They usually do a breakfast at the school, but because of COVID on February 5th, they'll be doing a Zoom meeting for that. There may be an increase in that budget due to an increase in enrollment, but that's not definitive yet. We'll have more information on the 5th. On Tuesday, February 9th at 6, Dr. Malone and the Ayer Shirley Regional School District will appear before a joint meeting of the Select Board and FinCom on Zoom. That's the off week for the Select Board. That's February 9th, where they'll present the budget, the FY22 budget for the school district. So still, as always, and many of you are all pretty much veterans to this process, several building blocks yet to fall into place as we move forward. Are there any initial questions on the FY22 budget? And I know we have the forum also on Wednesday.
Robert, I just for a point of clarification for anybody that may be watching or listening, there was a typo in the announcement I made earlier. I indicated that the forum was tomorrow night, but I said Wednesday, the 21st, which the 21st is actually a Thursday. But just so that people know, to be clear, it's actually next Wednesday, the 27th.
Correct. And Mr. Chair, when you said that, I noticed I didn't fall out of the seat, so we're good. Yeah, so it's next Wednesday, the 27th at 6, and I encourage people to contact my office. You'll see this advertised all over starting tonight, to contact my office for the Zoom link. I also want to stress that if members of the public, because public input is important, especially before we get to town meeting, through this whole process, it is a public process. If folks have questions, comments, concerns, please contact my office. We want you to have the information. We always want you to have the information. We want you to have the right information, and we want to answer your questions. And there are no stupid, there are no bad questions when it comes to the budget. So if you can't make it on Wednesday, we're going to do another one per the board, the select board. We usually do in March as we move through the process, but we're here to answer any questions. Okay. The next item, sort of related to the budget, number 4, is a proposal to increase the reserve fund for FY22. And I went before the FinCom on January 13th, and the buy board is also going to be looking at this on Thursday, and wanted to talk to the select board tonight about this. Not necessarily looking for a formal vote at this time, as I said in the packet, but just looking for some direction. And just for intro, for everybody's benefit, the reserve fund is largely under the Finance Committee. It's a fund that the town has each year that is designed to do really 2 things. It's to address unforeseen or extraordinary costs that occur during the budget year. As we all know, unfortunately, the budget doesn't always fit in a neat vacuum, and unforeseen or extraordinary things that weren't expected happen, and the town needs to, fund those. And just so everybody understands, it's not just a free-for-all. In other words, it has to be approved, elected. Also, all of the departments under the town manager have to get approval from the select board and the Finance Committee, both in open session meetings, both have to approve. And then other elected boards or elected officials, at a minimum, they have to get approval from the Finance Committee in an open meeting. So there are a system of checks and balances on the reserve fund. Also, it's key to note, per the town's financial policies, it truly has to be unforeseen or extraordinary. And I know that this select board and the FinCom in the past has been very particular in that. So just so folks know, sometimes you hear this awful term that it's a slush fund or what have you. It's not. It is a very transparent, controlled fund. Okay, with that being said, over the last 5 years or so, we've budgeted $150,000 for the reserve fund. When I first got here some time ago, before that was a little bit higher in the 200, 250. That was during a time we had some significant lawsuits. The FinCom and the select board at that time reduced it to 150 to meet the target. And the board has in your packet, you have the 5-year history as prepared by Ms. Cabri, which I appreciate. And you can see that over the last 5 years or so, the 150 has served us pretty well. We've either come pretty close to it or just under, which is good. What we'd like to discuss with you tonight, at Lisa and I and the internal finance team, we obviously remain in the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're going to be in it at least for several months moving forward. And as we've been discussing all along, this remains a work in progress on the financial front. As of even tonight, revenues look largely on target, which we'll talk about in a minute. We remain in a strong position and in good shape. However, as we've learned, this could change at any point. And we're feeling we'd like the board to consider increasing the reserve fund one time for FY22 due to COVID-19 to 300,000. That will allow us to address any unforeseen impacts as we move forward. And when we talk on Wednesday with both you and the FinCom in looking at the budget, if we choose to not fund some of the COVID impacted services at this time, but we're able to do them later in the year, we would be able to fund them. But for the purposes of tonight, we just wanted to sort of get your thoughts or feelings or concerns about increasing it this one time to get through FY22, if you will. And the following, then we'll assess, this wouldn't be a permanent increase, if you will. Through the chair, Lisa, did you want to add anything?
I could just add that, the additional funds could actually come from stabilization. Stabilization is there for rainy days and it's pouring out.
That is true. So there is also, the stabilization, which to access requires a town meeting and a 2/3 vote. One last point, just so everybody understands, obviously, if we were to increase the reserve fund, and we're recommending at this time, we're using the figure of 300,000. That's not etched in stone. It doesn't have to be that. Obviously, that would increase the omnibus budget by that amount for the year as well.
Scott or Janice, do you have any questions? Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to give you from the buy board perspective, this did come up, I think, at a buy board meeting a while back, and the buy board itself overall is supportive of the 300,000. Personally, I do also support the 300,000. The other thing that came up at that meeting from Ms. Cabri, which was a very good point, is also the use of our UDAG fund. And I think that she proposed, and I completely agree with her, that we need to really have a policy around usage of UDAG. So there are times that we've used UDAG as opposed to the reserve fund to cover some costs and expenses. So I think that if we look at putting that into place in addition to the COVID situation, I think an increase is definitely warranted.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Janice?
So question kind of bouncing off what Scott just said. So do you think that if we raise the reserve fund, is it because are we using the UDAG more often because we haven't had an appropriate amount available for the reserve fund transfers?
I think it's more about timing issues,
Okay.
especially with the DPW.
Mhm.
Like he always has some kind of emergency going on.
So it's Mark's fault. Okay.
That's what I feel anyway. It's not that we don't have adequate funds in other places, we do. it's more like, can we have a town meeting in order to get more money? Well, we don't have time for a town meeting. It costs too much money. So UDAG first, and oftentimes the select board want the general fund, free cash to pay back the UDAG money, which is get it. In some cases, I agree with it. In other cases, I think it's just going too far. I mean, you should commit those funds to infrastructure. That's what they were originally there for.
Mhm.
If DPW comes in with an infrastructure project, you should commit them to the UDAG funds.
Mhm.
My opinion.
Scott?
Yeah, I guess the other thing to add on to the use of UDAG is also, and this has been kind of poked around for a few years, going back to when I was on the finance committee, is really reviewing our reserve fund transfer process and making sure that we're following the complete regulations. We do bottom line budget by department. So my pure understanding of the way the reserve funds should work is if there is an unexpected cost, it should go against the budget that they have in place. And then as that budget gets down to zero, if it's not going to cover the cost because of, say, a single transaction 3 months earlier, that's when, at the point that they should be coming for a reserve fund transfer. So I think it's two things that we really should look at maybe in the next year for policy changes.
Agreed.
Overall, I don't think we have too many reserve fund transfers throughout the year. Trying to remember even the last one. It's like maybe at least 2. I know I can definitely think of 2 a year. Fire department is usually one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so the ones that the boards the select board sees, it's not really attending the elected officials. The elected officials only have to go through the finance committee for their reserve fund transfers. So there's some lack of visibility from the select board to every reserve fund transfer that is processed.
Fire is to Selectman Livingston, the fire department, because it's a tight budget. That's one. We just had one for unemployment. It's been pretty quiet on the RFT front so far, which is a good thing. And again, I think it's just important, if we were to increase it, say to 300,000, that doesn't mean we're going to spend it. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we don't need it. Hopefully, if all goes planned based on the 5-year history you have, we would be closer to the 150 mark, slightly under it. But we're just thinking where there are so many unknown variables still as we move through this COVID-19 pandemic, including the full realization of what the economic and financial impact is going to be. We just think it makes good policy to be proactive, and hopefully a year from now, when we're doing the FY23 budget, we are back to the norm.
Could I just add something, Robert?
Yes.
What we spent, the town alone has spent $61,000 in FY20 on COVID expenses. And to date, $116,000 in FY21. The $30,000 phone systems in there, but also a $30,000 automated cot for the fire departments in there. We have received, so the total of $177,000. The schools, I believe, have, I'll be looking into deeper because I have to do a reconciliation. I believe they have requested each around $200,000 from CARES Act money. So at that point, at some point, we're going to be pushing up, even though the CARES Act money was extended, the time to spend was extended, the amount of money was not increased. So we have to be cognizant that we may hit a top level, which is, I think, $711,000 somewhere in that area.
711.
Yeah. So, and does it take long when all 3 organizations are spending money for remote access mostly? But so if at least if we're approaching that higher level and there's no additional funding coming out of the feds, then at least we have a little cushion built into the reserve fund for some unexpected costs. Without having a town meeting, which is a big deal these days.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, Lisa, because I think if somebody is watching, they may be questioning what unexpected expenses, like what they would be used for. So I think that provides a little bit more clear picture on why it needs to be increased and why the 300,000. So do you need a vote on this or?
Mr. Chair, not at this time. When we met with the FinCom on the 13th, there was sort of consensus about moving in the direction of the 300,000, assuming that the select board was. At this point, and we'd like to just touch upon this point at the public forum. So for the public forum, when you see the omnibus, it's going to be at 150,000, which was last year's RFT. But this is helpful as we move forward. It looks like we, at the appropriate time, we would ask the board for a motion. It doesn't have to be tonight, and then we can build that into the budget. It'll give a chance for everybody to further just think about it a little bit more. Let us bring it up at the public forum, see if there's any other, float that out there, and then we can proceed.
Okay,
That's what I would propose.
sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Item 4 on my report, I'm joined by Kevin Johnston, the Benefits and Payroll Manager, and I'm going to turn it over to him through the chair to make just a brief presentation and request to extend the Family First Corona Relief Act. So, Mr. Chair, through you, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hi.
Oh, thanks. Hope everyone's well. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, as you may be aware, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that was passed by the federal government in April provided some emergency paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave benefits for employees for specific COVID-19 related reasons. This was a mandate that expired on December 31st. The recent federal legislation that was passed at the end of the year included a voluntary extension of these benefit programs through March 31st of 2021. There's no increase in the benefits, nor with regard to the hours available in each of the 3 categories of leave, or there's a cap on dollars as well. It just provides another 3 months of time to access these benefits for our employees. The memo in your packets tonight requests an extension of the paid sick leave and expanded FMLA benefits through March 31st of 2021 for our employees.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
No.
No?
So you need a motion?
Please.
Okay. So I make a motion that the select board approve the extension of the emergency paid sick leave and expanded family and medical leave benefits through March 31st, 2021 in accordance with the provisions of the Consolidated Appropriations Act.
Second.
Okay. Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion's approved.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And then select board, my last item is the opening of the annual town meeting warrant. The annual town meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 26th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium of the Ayer Shirley Regional High School. I'm respectfully requesting that the select board vote to officially open the annual town meeting warrant. All warrant articles, including citizens petitions, will be due by no later than Friday, April 2nd at noon. And we'll advertise all of this as we always do upon your approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion that the select board open the annual town meeting warrant with the citizens petitions, and all warrant articles will be due no later than Friday, April 2nd, 2021 at 12 p.m.
I will second.
Okay. Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion's approved to open the town meeting warrant.
Members of the board, thank you for your time and the opportunity this evening.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Next, I don't believe there's any new business or selectmen questions. If not, then the next is the approval of the meeting minutes from December 21st. I did not have any changes.
I had no changes.
No, neither did I. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December 21st, 2020 as presented.
Seconded.
Okay, Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. and the meeting minutes are approved for December 21st, 2020. And with that, we're at the end of our agenda items.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.